All right, this is OneLastMidnight. Welcome back to another episode of Valheim. Today we're going to look at building stably and looking at how the stability functionality works inside of Valheim. So you can go from building something like this to building something like this, and then eventually to be able to build something like this. All right, a couple things before we get started. Let's talk about attachment points. Now, most attachment points are pretty easy to attach to. You just walk up to it and you attach to it. But sometimes when you're building down, attachment points are rather difficult to attach to. So I'd really like this pole underneath, but trying to attach to that attachment point is almost near impossible. So one really quick tip is you can attach a wall to that attachment point that you want to make. And you should be able to snap to that attachment point rather easy. So you see I can attach to the bottom of this. I'm not really attaching to the bottom of this. What I'm attaching to is that side of the wall, and then you just delete your wall. But it is the same attachment point as I would get if I tried to attach to the bottom. You can see that these square up just fine when I attach to the top. Tip number 2, ladders are your friend, and they are the best possible use for scaffolding. Matter of fact, if we go back to our previous example, if I wanted to start building, let's say, upward, I'm going to get to the point like the bottom where I cannot get to the attachment point on the top. It's very hard for me to attach on the top. So you're going to need to make some sort of scaffolding, and the best way to do that is ladders. Now, ladders attach to each other, so all you have to do is just walk up the ladder, and you'll have an attachment point on the top of the ladder. And you'll be able to build higher and higher. Now, you can only build 4 ladders in sequence before they need support, but you can at least get yourself to that starting phase of being able to attach to some top parts of your structure, just in case you're trying to build something that is significantly tall. And that is a great segue into stability. In Valheim, if you don't have something supporting your structure will start falling down. Pretty simple concept. I don't have anything supporting these beams, so these beams will eventually fall. So I've made some examples to show you kind of how this works. Like the scaffolding, there's a color system, and you can see it. You start from a kind of a gray blue, and you work yourself to a green, and then to some sort of orange color, and then to a red color. Blue is the most stable color. It's telling you that this particular post is 100% solid. And think of it as you've dug a hole in the ground, you stuck a post in there and put some concrete and then filled it back in. This is a very, very stable building piece. Followed by a shade of green, and you might get 2 shades of green when you're stacking up before it starts turning color to a lighter shade of green. And then you'll move into sort of a yellowish color, followed by an orange, and then a red. And by the time you're getting up to the red color, it's telling you, look, this is highly unstable. If I try to attach anything to a dark red color, what'll happen is it'll become unstable itself, and it'll just fall down. So in this example, we have kind of a little bit of a guide, right? So here is the most stable piece, followed by green, a slightly lighter green, into that orangey color, and then into the red. And I'm able to come out, these are 2 meter long beams. I'm able to come out 4 before my structure is completely unstable. Now, if you want to stabilize this structure, it's very simple to do. And in this case, I'm going to put in a wood beam 3 wide. Going vertically down, you'll notice that that ground piece is stable, followed by a green, and it also turned this other piece green. So this piece was initially orange, and this piece was red. By putting in this other vertical post, we have stabilized this bottom part of the structure, and it's actually easier to build on now. I would have an easy time building up and then stabilizing some remaining parts of the structure. You can see that these pieces have turned green, where before they are a reddish color, a yellow color, and an orange color. This is actually getting a little bit unstable because there's nothing supporting it on the other side. So you're going to have to put in more beams to support this structure. But you get the concept. You have to pay attention to these colors as you're building. If you get to the point where you're hitting reds or you're hitting oranges, you really should start thinking about putting in supporting beams to support your structure. Now, the same is true for walls. Again, we have a supporting wall that's sitting on the ground, followed by another wall, which is green, the same green, into a lighter shade of green, into a yellow. And again, if we go higher, we would have got the orange and the red. But flooring is a little bit different. So if flooring is attached to the ground itself, it will be blue. That's why it's so important to flatten your ground first, because when you flatten your ground, most of your floor pieces will be blue. If they're off of the ground, like this one is, it will be green. And then following, if you continue to keep building out, it will start going through that color coding where it becomes unstable. When it does, you're going to have to put supporting beams underneath your floor to keep it stable and stop it from collapsing. Again, it's always really important to flatten your ground, and that way you can see that this floor here is all blue, except for one piece, and that means this one is elevated. So if we come over here, if we could crawl on the ground, oh, here's better. We change the camera angle, you can see that that particular floor piece is not really touching the ground. So I would have to raise the ground just slightly. You'd have to get rid of that piece, put in a hoe, raise the ground just a little bit, come back in and reattach that floor piece and see that it is now blue. Now, what about roofing? Well, roofing's kind of the same thing. If you start on a less stable color, let's say the orange color up here on the top, this yellow color right here, the next piece is going to be orange and the next piece will be followed by red. So envision when you're doing a roofing system, if you're going up really high with your supports and you're starting your roof, if I start up here and put a roof piece down, because it's already red, it will fall. It's going to be a very dark red and immediately start falling. So be sure to try to make sure you have enough support, the appropriate color before you start building your roof. Roofing is tough because we've got an orange here. So if I try to put another one down, this is immediately going to turn red and it's not going to hold. So what you're going to have to do with roofing is you're going to have to find the end point and you're going to have to build upward because this is more stable. The second piece that I put on here will be more stable still. And then we can finally have that third connecting piece. And that third connecting piece will now work. It will turn red, but because it's supported by two other pieces, it's not going to fall. And this is how you would build a roof, at least a very high, steep roof inside of Valheim. Again, pay attention to the color. It's all about the coloring system. Here's another example with the 45-degree angle. Now, the 45-degree angle structure tends to get, a little bit more unstable than a complete vertical structure. And that makes sense because it's leaning. So you go from that dark blue into the green and then immediately into that light green color and then to an orange, or that yellow color into an orange. If I was to try to build off of this side, you could see that it's already red. It's completely unsupported. It would just fall. I would have to, again, come out, build a support system first, and then build some sort of ground support before I can start placing that 45-degree vertical structure. And then I can finish off that vertical structure. It's probably going to collapse on me. So you're going to have to go back and build from the ground again, like we did before with the roof situation. And then build up to the middle piece, and then it will be stable. Now, the next level of wood beam is actually core wood. And you're going to need to go into the dark forest and cut down pine trees before you even get core wood. But core wood is more stable than a standard beam. And it's actually larger. This is a 4-meter beam as opposed to a 2-meter beam that you get when you're using just a regular post. You can see here, here's the difference between the two. And I'm able to stack these a little bit higher before they start changing color. But you notice that they did go to an orange instead of a yellow right away. So you're only really going to get 3 pillars high before you start getting into that orange color. But that is a significant height already. You can tell this building, when it's going to be done, is going to be 3 stories high. My ground floor, my second floor, And then I will have a third floor coming off of here, and maybe even a fourth floor into an attic system. Core wood is great wood if you're going to build yourself some sort of giant longhouse like this building right here. All right, when you get to the Iron Age, you actually get a new support. And that support is the wood iron pole. And you also have a wood iron beam. Now, these things are pretty strong. Stacking them on top of each other, you actually get pretty much the same result as you would stacking vertical beams, except for the fact that you can stack these significantly higher before they start changing color. These three greens are pretty much the same green. You can see that the other 2-meter beam that I just put on is still green. So, I mean, this has a lot more stability to it than your standard wood beam. But you are going to need a forge in order to be able to make this, and you're also going to need iron bars before you can even start building these things. Believe it or not, after iron becomes stone. You actually get the stone cutter bench, which now you can cut stone, and you could start building stone pieces. Stone, like iron, is extremely stable, and you can use it to build up pretty high. I think stone ultimately, because you can see it starts turning yellow up here on the top, you're going to have a supporting structure. You're going to have some sort of cross beam or cross wall to be able to support your structure. So again, I think building with stone is very similar to building with wood, but you're probably going to be able to achieve much greater heights with stone as opposed to wood. What's really cool about the iron reinforced beam and even the stone is that if I use this as a support structure, let's see here. We're blue, then we go green, then we go green. If I use this as a support structure close to this wall, watch what happens. So we're blue, and we're still blue. And then we go green, green. And into, this used to be an orange color or a yellow color, and now it's a green color. If I happen to put another piece, so I'm 2 blue and then a green, green. If I put another beam down, I go blue, blue again. So I'm increasing that 100% stability. I mean, this wall right here is super stable. I could definitely build off of it horizontally or even continue to build vertically and be able to achieve much greater heights if I put down either a reinforced wood beam or even a stone pillar. So if I put down a stone pillar next to this, I get the same result as I would a wooden beam. So with a combination of the reinforced iron wood and or stone pillars, you can make your wooden structure incredibly stable. All right, that's it for me. And I hope you guys learned something about building stability. In later videos, I'll be showing you guys how to make a medium-sized house, or at least a decent-sized house. And then I'll make a video on how to make a giant longhouse. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, hit that like button. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. I'd love to have you in the community. If you want to follow me on any of my social media, you can find the links in the description below, and make sure to hit that notification bell. That way you know when I go live and when I post new videos. I'll talk to you later. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.